So have you ever heard of monolithic architecture or monolithic application, high availability and loose coupling? Maybe, maybe not, but I can tell you that these are important design principles in the modern cloud computing applications. And needless to say that these concepts and the questions based on these topics can be really confusing in the real exams, and that's why today we are going to dive into these essential concepts and tackle some practice questions to help you pass the AWS Cloud Practitioner exam. So what are we waiting for? Here comes the very first question for today.
So let's begin the part 43 with question number 291. We are fast approaching the 3rd century of the question. Question is saying that which scenarios should a user report to the AWS abuse team? And you have to select 2 correct options. Now the option A is a DDoS attack is made on a AWS resource. Option B, a SQL injection attack is made from an IP address that is not an AWS address. Option C, AWS resources are being used to host objectionable or illegal content. And then we have option D, a company's resource are being used in a way that is inconsistent with the corporate policy. And then option E, a company is receiving HTTP requests on a web server that is serving HTTP. Now let's look at the correct options and then I will give you the explanation. First one is option A, a DDoS attack is being made on an AWS resource. And then we have option C, AWS resources are being used to host objectionable or illegal content. Now let's understand this a little bit more. So the AWS Trust and Safety team can assist you in the following types of abusive behaviors. The first one is denial of services, which is the DDoS attacks. So your logs essentially that show that one or more AWS owned IP address are used to flood the ports on your resources with the packets, and you believe that this attempt is actually to overwhelm or crash your server or the software that is running on your servers or application servers. So this is how the DDoS attacks works. And then we also have the intrusion attempts. So basically your logs, they probably will be showing that one or more your AWS owned IP addresses are actually used to attempt to log into your resources illegally or unauthenticated. And not just that, it is also being used, or maybe someone is trying to host the prohibited content. So that is also one other aspect you should take care of. So then we have spam, which are basically receiving undesired emails from AWS owned IP addresses. Also have something like port scanning, which is like sending packets to your ports to discover the unsecured ones. So that is how people are always snooping on your ports. So that is also one type of intrusion that you can expect. Then we also have distributing malware. So all of that, let me give you one documentation where you can read all of this. So first of all, my friends, you have to understand what exactly can you report to the abuse team of the AWS on the various attacks on AWS resources. So here you can read that probably you can have the web content or the non-copyrighted intellectual property. I will zoom it a little bit more. Then you can also understand about the email abuse, the network activity. So there can be a lot of network activity. We just talked about denial of service, DDoS attacks, port scanning. You can also read about the abusive network activity. So all of that, and also how to secure your ports, email, IP addresses, timestamps, and a lot more. Then please understand copyright. This is a big issue in case there is some content or some data on your application that is forged into, which is not copyrighted. So please understand this. It's a very important concept. It's a very real scenario that loads of application, loads of companies, corporate houses are facing day in and day out.
And yes, in the very next episode, I'm going to talk about some AWS services which are less heard of but are critical for you to understand in case you really want to work on Amazon AWS. So please do not miss to watch the next episode. And yes, in case you're looking for the PDF files containing all the questions and the answers for our various exam series on both Microsoft Azure and Amazon AWS, then please email us at connectus@thetechblackboard.com.
So with that first step on the security, let's move on to the next question. Question number 292 that says a user is planning to migrate an application workload to the AWS cloud Which control becomes the responsibility of the AWS once migration is complete? Please note that we are talking about the responsibility of AWS and not the user like you and me. What are the options given? Option A, patching the guest operating system. Option B, maintaining physical and environmental controls. Option C, protecting communication and maintaining zone security. And option D, patching specific applications. And the correct answer or the responsibility of the AWS once the migration is complete is option B, maintaining the physical and environmental controls. So friends, you really have to understand security and compliance is actually a shared responsibility between the AWS and the customer, like you, like me, the companies. Because what's happening now is that the AWS operates, manage and controls the environmental components and also operating system, virtualization layer, down to the physical security of the facility in which the services operates or maybe the servers are deployed. Now, once you migrate your application workload to the AWS cloud, then unlike the on-premise infrastructure where you are actually responsible for everything, once you are on the cloud, maintenance of the physical data centers, servers, physical security becomes the responsibility of AWS. And AWS shared responsibility model is a super important concept because you probably will get loads of questions. And it's not about just the question, it's actually about understanding the core principle where the responsibility is yours, where the responsibility is AWS, because that is actually what enables you to plan your resources accordingly and choose the services wisely. So for example, in virtual machine or the EC2 instances, you have different set of responsibility rather than when you're using a web application or mobile application. So please understand the shared responsibility model. A good documentation is this one, as I'm showing. Then you can also understand this data controls where it's given like this one, the our controls, and here you can read about the AWS data centers are secure by design and our control makes it possible. So before they actually begin building a data center, what are the precautions, what are the security measures that they take, everything is given here. Please read out that documentation. Link for all the references I'm making is given in the description box. So now let's move on to the next question and take one more step towards the secure application on AWS cloud. Question number 293 that says, which design principle of cloud architecture are recommended when re-architecting a large monolithic application? And you have to choose two correct options. Very interesting question about the monolithic application. I'm not sure how many of you actually know about monolithic architecture or application. It was the core concept back then when every application was monolithic. We will understand what exactly is monolithic. I will give you more details on it. Now let's look at the option. Option A, use manual monitoring. Option B, use fixed servers. Option C, implement loose coupling. Option D, rely on individual components. And option E, design for scalability. So let's look at the correct options. The first one is option C, implement loose coupling. And then we have option B, design for scalability. Now let me try to make you understand what exactly is this all about. So when you're re-architecting your application, the monolithic application as given in the question, the recommended design principles include implementing loose coupling. Here we can see that as a correct option, and also designing for scalability. Well, these principles, these actually promote flexibility, independence of components from each other, so they can work independently rather than crashing together, and then also the capacity to handle the fluctuating workloads efficiently. But to better understand these options or these correct answer, you really need to understand what exactly is monolithic application. So let me give you a basic understanding of this. So in the software engineering, my friends, a monolithic application, it really embodies a unified design approach where you can, application functionality, it operates as a single indivisible unit. In simple words, it says that all your components are tightly coupled together and they cannot be modified, updated, or tested individually. They're really tightly coupled, and that was the core design principle back then. And this actually includes user interface, business logic, driving the application core operations, and it also includes the data access layer responsible for communicating with the database. So now you can see, normally we talk about the three-tier architecture, business logic or the front end, UI UX. We also talk about the logic layer, and we talk about the databases. So this is the three-tier architecture, but in a monolithic application, all these three layers are tightly coupled. Now you may be wondering, what is the exact problem with that? Well, there are multiple problems associated with the monolithic application or the architecture, and some of them I can quickly mention here. First of all, there are huge scalability issues with the monolithic architecture. Then, as I mentioned, lack of modularity, because monolithic application is a single cohesive unit. It can be difficult to really reuse the specific components or specific modules of your application in other projects. Then also, thirdly, I can say slow deployment, because it's a giant application, one single unit, so very slow deployment. And also, it's very difficult to identify and fix the issues. And lastly, I can touch upon that testing is also a great challenge. And that is why, to resolve these issues, we need to re-architect the application, implement loose coupling, and design for scalability. And here, when I say implement loose coupling, I really mean that you have to promote the flexibility and reduce the interdependencies between various modules of your application. So that is loose coupling. And then design for scalability, of course, it involves creating the architecture in such a way that it can handle a growing amount of workloads effectively. And that is crucial for these days application. You can never be sure when your application will have demand spikes. So that is why you should always consider and keep in mind that you're designing your application for scalability. So I really hope that you got some idea about the monolithic application, what is the tight coupling, loose coupling, scalability. And this is a very interesting topic. In case some of you want to discuss it further, let me know in the comment section, and I can put more knowledge and understanding on this concept. But for now, let's jump on to the next question. Question number 294, that says, which is the recommended pattern for designing a highly available architecture on AWS? Your options are: option A, ensure the components have low latency network connectivity. Option B, run enough Amazon EC2 instances to operate at peak load. Option C, ensure that the application is designed to accommodate failure of any single component. And option D, use a monolithic application that handles all the operations. Now this is a related question, the one we previously took. And here you can see very similar words: single components, monolithic application. You can also see the scalability talked about. So the correct answer, first of all, is option C, ensure that the application is designed to accommodate failure for any single component. So you might be wondering why I took this related question. See, it's very simple. I just wanted to show you the variation of the question. In the previous question, it directly asked about the monolithic application, but here it is asking about making the application highly available and a way of doing the same to design the application components which are loosely coupled. So even if you have one single component failed, it will not bring the entire application down. So that is why option C is the correct answer. Moving on to the next question, question number 295, that says, AWS supports which of the following methods to add security to the identity and access management users? And once again, you have to select two correct options. Your options given are: option A, implementing Amazon recognition. Option B, using AWS shield protection resources. Option C, blocking access with security groups. And option D, using multi-factor authentication, better known as MFA. And then option E, enforcing password strength and expiration. Let's check out the correct answers. The first one is option D, using multi-factor authentication. And second one is option E, enforcing password strength and expiration. And of course, my friends, AWS identity and access management, very important concept. And I'm sure that while working in offices, you must have heard about the Microsoft Entra ID, Microsoft IAM, because that is more popular in the sense, because normally offices or corporates are using Microsoft product. But when you're working in the AWS, of course, there is a parallel corresponding service, that is AWS Identity and Access Management. You can read about the same. What is it used for? Basically, it is used to manage scale workloads and workforce access securely, supporting your agility and innovation in AWS. So don't have to confuse, very similar concept as we have in Microsoft, exactly the same. Then you can also understand what are the benefits, how it lets you set the permissions, guardrails, and fine-grained access controls. So you can read that all about and understand what are the use cases for the same as well. One more documentation I actually wanted to show you, that is on the MFA, which is multi-factor authentication. You can read that here. Multi-factor authentication is essentially a service that lets you authenticate some user using multiple ways. So for example, one of the most prominent way, of course, is the password. Then there can be other ways. You could be sending the user SMS or a code, or maybe using the soft tokens, or these days we also have different type of authenticator, Microsoft authenticator, we also have Google authenticators. So essentially we are saying that we have to authenticate user in multiple ways and not rely on a single authentication method. So that is the essence of multi-factor authentication. Please read that all about that in this documentation.
And yes, my friends, in the year 2025, I'm going to launch multiple exciting videos on what are the most critical services and the concepts in Amazon AWS and Microsoft Azure. And not just that, I'm going to launch a Microsoft 𝗖𝗢𝗠𝗣𝗟𝗧 series where you will be able to understand all the critical Microsoft Azure concepts. There will be loads of practical lab and you will understand everything about Microsoft Azure. And that's all for today. I will see you in the next video. Till then, stay fit, keep learning, and thanks for watching.